What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catchpolia sitting on the couch, making some money investing in fractional real estate online as usual. Today, I have a special treat. As I mentioned a couple days ago, I have Limas here. He is the creator of LoftyAssist. He's also a fellow investor on Lofty. Wanted to interrupt this interview real quick and apologize. I realize I recorded this whole thing and somehow did not get our cameras, so sorry for that. You know, I'm not a tech guy, and I apologize. I think there's a lot of value in just looking at Limus's tool and how to use it. So I'm going to still publish this video, but I want to say sorry about that. Also, please like and subscribe. And I, as always, have links in the description below to all the anything that we mention on here. As far as I'll have one to Lofty Assist, although I think you can find that pretty easy, but also to any of the other platforms that are mentioned. All right, back to it. Limas, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how we ended up here?
Sure thing. So, hi, Joe. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate that. So, my background is pretty simple. I'm relatively new to real estate. I have a one investment property, so very small operation. I kind of know what's going on in terms of what it takes to have long-term tenants. That's where I focus on. I have a few friends who do like short-term rentals, so I have like a little nibbling background in the area.
Hmm.
Also have been involved in like financial markets since 2019. Again, very recent, although since 2019 there has been a lot of events that happened. So it's
Right,
kind
for
of
sure.
a fire hose of learning had transpired over that time. And then for my like bigger career, I have been building software for over 20 years, have a lot of experience in that domain. And so yeah, all of that kind of came together with Lofty. Similar to you, like watching from your videos, I
Hmm.
I discovered fractional real estate investing very recently, end of October.
Okay.
And Lofty was I started with Arrived. I also had very similar experiences to you where I thought the fees were very high and sort of transparency wasn't to the level where I wanted it to be. So I kept on digging a little bit more, and then I found Lofty. Blockchain had a little bit of influence on me. I am
Hmm.
familiar with blockchains, am familiar with crypto, and Algorand was one of the projects I was involved with quite a lot. And I don't even know how I missed Lofty, to be honest, for all those years. So I got in and started sort of digging a little bit more, investing a little bit more. And I wouldn't categorize this as like a big part of my net worth being in Lofty, but it has
Right.
been growing. It has been growing. So
And I'm right there with you. You know, I've been experimenting on several of these platforms for really just
yeah,
about 6 months now. Um, been investing in real estate for much longer, but I don't think that I think it's not really prudent to be just dumping a whole bunch of cash into any of
yeah,
them yet, because none of them are truly proven platforms. You know, even Lofty, who's been around for a few years, their business model drastically changed when they switched to the co-ownership model, and I think we haven't really seen the results of that yet. You know, we haven't seen
yep.
even a full year of operations from most of those. So, um, and so what about what about using Lofty? I mean, it must have created enough friction for you to decide to make your own tool. What got you there?
Yeah. So when you start out with Lofty, there's so many properties. I mean,
Hmm.
it's one like you see here, 154 properties. So all 100 properties with variety of yields and fees and types. There's long term, there's short term, just a lot of data. There's a lot of trading information going on, order books, updates, descriptions. Like it was a lot of information. So
Hmm.
I did like the promise of it, like looking at yields and rental yields and generating cash on cash invested. I was like, wow, this looks really promising. Like it looks good on the surface.
Right.
But then you kind of need to dig in. And the digging in part was more difficult to me than I would have liked it to be. And that slowly, this tool didn't start. Like you never should build a tool, an alternative front end to people that to a product that already exists, that people have full-time employees working on it. things like that. So it's not my first inclination. But as I was spending time, I was missing a few key things, and I'm not sure if you want me to dive just right in.
Yeah, let's jump right into it. Like I said, I have a account opened up here. It's one I just signed in, but I haven't assigned any properties to it. I haven't done anything with it at all. So brand
Yeah,
new. I'm a new user. What am I doing with this?
exactly. Yeah, okay, let's do it. So I think the first thing I wanted to do that I noticed about the properties. Let's go to properties tab. You see how
Okay.
there's a dashboard. So when you log in, you got nothing, and the only thing you can really do, like, hey, let me browse some properties. So, at the very first thing you will see is like very similar UI to what Lofty has. There's this thumbnails and things like that.
Hmm.
Now, the sort date, so I can see what are the recent properties that have come onto the system. And right away, this gives me from your overview, like, okay, what's recently coming in, what are they yielding, and things like that.
Oh, that's how this is sorted. So this is the newest property, and we go from
Yeah.
there. Okay.
Do you see
Which
the
is which
search?
is nice. Oh, go ahead.
Do you see this search properties bar? And you see this
Yes, right
button
here.
on the left on the right side, which is available date. You see this
Oh, yes.
button?
Yep. I see that there.
You can click on it and you can change the sorting, but the default is what's available date, sort of like what are the new properties coming in. And once you
Right.
save a setting, so for example, if you wanted to see like give me the top yielding properties, click on that cash on cash return. Okay, and now you'll see like, okay, here's the currently what's yielding, giving you best returns, which we all know it's not necessarily the best property to invest in, but
Right. And
in
and
the
so this cash on cash return that it's pulling, this is the current yield, right? If I
yeah,
go into Lofty's platform. Okay.
yeah, that's what you get paid. And actually, I like you see in on each property image here, this daily income per token. I kind of like to break it down. How much would I get per token if I bought a single
Right.
token per day? Which it's not the best way to think about real estate like a daily payments, but it gives me
Right.
like a way to compare properties, and right away, if I was going after a big yield, I would be like, okay, what's going on here in terms of like this has 31%. The first one was in Florida property has 31%. Then its next one 28, 28, 23.
Right.
So, I would be interested, okay, like why is this guy earning so much, and I would start digging in from there.
Right.
Things like that. So first of all, kind of ability to slice and dice by different uh, values, like
Right.
and you can look at this another change the sort from, let's say, instead of cash on cash return, like cap rate, which is really what you would be getting if property is fully paid off and all the tokens are floating. So now that list should be much smaller. I mean, completely different. There's
Right.
actually like this cap rate is 53% right away. Is like something's completely off here.
Absolutely.
Is some sort
And
of
and
mhm.
this is a good tool. I like the cap rate. I think in general, this is a better indicator of how these properties are going to perform for us long term. I should have
Exactly.
mentioned it when we had that cash on cash up. The one property on Ludin, I think it was so high last month because they paid out some portion of their operating reserve, right? Uh,
Right. So now let's say you're a new person, right? And you don't know this, right?
right.
So let's click on that Luden property right here that you have. Now in cap rate, it came up fourth. So it's like, okay, what's going on? Why is it so high? Let's click on that property. You can click over, yeah. And like you said, in this is a lot of data, but once you start digging and doing research, I appreciate, more data and kind of at a
Right.
glance, I can see what's going on.
Let
So
me just
one of
go
the
right.
first things I like to do is, do you see this expenses and income area? And there is a show percentage button if you
Yep.
click on that.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I really like to see like, okay, for this property, how much PM is charging. So again, it's like, wow, very low PM fee. It's, what's going on here. Like
Right.
I would be like checklist on my mind. then I do due diligence. Let me dig in. I like taxes not too high, insurance is not too high. You took like this looks really good, 21% total
Hmm.
expense based on the cash flow. And as a result, the token value is valued at 50, but it's trading at a premium, 14% premium. So I'm sort of like highlighting for myself that, hey, if you're gonna want to get in this, you're gonna pay premium price. So watch out.
Right.
And is the premium really worth it? Now, I would look at that. So one of the key things that people mention that Lofty native UI is missing is historical charts, historical yields. So let's click
Right.
on that charts tab.
Oh, let me go back over here. Right here.
And like you said, this as an experienced Lofty person that, hey, this is a recent yield increase,
Hmm.
right? But I am new. I just come in. I was like, oh, 32%, let's go.
Right.
But
Exactly.
then
And
I can take a look at this. I'm like, oh, for the longest time, it was 15%. Something happened in January. All
mhm.
right, we'll need to dig in. Now I will click on the changes tab.
Let me see. I have to just. There we go.
And I would kind of start to slowly dig in. What happened at the beginning of January that caused this to cash flow to go up? So this cash flow is increasing by a lot. And here we go. Here's an update. And there was a DAO vote. And okay, operating reserve is being released. All right. So
Right.
now as a sort of a slightly experienced person, I would be like, okay, most likely this yield is temporary, very good. Properties managed very well. They had excess operating reserves. Not a bad thing. It's a great thing. And on and on. And then it would be help me like, okay, calm down to this 32% yield. It will be lower, but the property seems solid, things going on. So I might then decide that, okay, I want to maybe have this on my interested list with notes.
Hmm.
So there's like a notes and badges tab.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So in here, what I do is I just leave for myself some notes like, hey, I looked at this property, the yield is high because, they push, releasing the operating reserve, it should come down. And I might even put in some limit orders, some buy limit orders at a lower price point in case that there is uh, some sort of, drop off. People had enough, or like they realized like, oh, this yield is temporary, I want out, or things like that.
Right. No, no, that's great. I'll definitely be using this. One of the things though, I want to just get back to this charts. This
Yeah.
is the best, like this is a feature I have asked Lofty for since basically day one, right? Like when you look into their platform, you can only see what the current monthly payout is. And looking at that in a vacuum is just it's kind of useless to us, right? Like, I mean, it can give you like this one, okay, this showed up as the number one performing cash on cash return property. It is I like this property. I don't own this
Same.
one, but I own another one from this same co-owner. I think he does a great job. But it is
100%.
you just wouldn't understand what was going on if you don't see that last month it was half of what it is this month. It wouldn't even trigger in especially a new user to the platform's mind that, oh, I need to look and see what's actually going on here. So I love that you're doing this. Lofty has several times said they're working on providing this, but it seems like to me the first thing you do, right? Like I want to know how this has been going over time. So I really like that you're doing this. And this is actually every day. You're right. Are you looking at by this is broken up by day?
Yep.
Um, Now, is there a way for me to change that timeline, or is it just over time it will shrink as you have more and more data points?
Over time, it will shrink. And then once I get enough data accumulated where timeline slicing is necessary, then
Hmm.
add add those tools,
Got it.
that
Okay.
ability. Yeah, and actually, one thing I will mention if anybody's listening to this property, the PM, I love the PM, the property
Yeah.
manager, and he's I think he's like a co-owner, right? He owns some
Yes.
parts,
Yes.
and actually, I do own this property as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Before, yeah, before the increase. Just again, like he's very responsive on Discord,
Right.
very you can see like again one of the other things I like by looking at the updates, just kind of to see what the update flow looks like. Is a documents being updated um like on a regular basis? What conversation? Actually, if you go to changes tab, not the updates tab,
Ah,
it's
yes.
like
Yep.
what. So, documents coming in that is like operating, most recent operating reserve. Actually, this documents feature is something you suggested as I was talking to you some time
Right.
ago
Right.
as a potential
No, and
product,
I
as a pot
appreciate you adding that for sure. I think this
yeah,
is I'm always looking for when they put this chart out for properties because, for one like this one where you have a co-owner that is pretty transparent and you can ask questions to, this isn't the most important document. But for a lot of the older properties where there's like nobody driving the bus, this is one of the most, when you open this up, it's one of the most reliable ways. It brings you here, and so
yeah. If you do the modified, click on that.
this
Yeah,
is
yeah,
the most
yeah,
recent is that operating reserve chart.
yeah.
It gives you a better understanding, and obviously, I think this is probably
That's a
because
payout.
they paid it out, right?
Right.
Um, but on a lot of properties, this is all the most reliable indicator of what the cash flow of that property is. And so I was spending a lot of time just going through and looking to see when this was added to different properties because it kind of gives you a little bit of front running ability, right? Like you can see what's happening before maybe well, definitely before the distributions change, because a lot of times the distributions for a property are tied to having a full operating reserve. So,
Mhm.
like for example, the couple of the Chicago duplexes recently, Sangamon and Peoria, they had been full for a long time. You could see their operating reserve increasing, but they hadn't paid anything out until this past month because their operating reserve wasn't full. Well, I bought
Yep.
both of those just based on watching their operating reserves fill up. But there's no place. I mean, they do an update on the page, but without actually looking at the chart, you
Yeah.
can't see how much it fills each month. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. And actually, the updates piece that so as you saw a little bit like how I can use it to have a single place where I can see everything, right? How is
right.
the yield changing? How the documents being uploaded? Whatever property changes, yield is up and down, utility is going up and down. What's the percentage breakdown? And if you go to Overview tab um, on
Yep.
this guy. Yeah, also I can look at the tokenomics a little bit in a single place too. Here's what the Lofty is valuing the token at, here's what it's trading at, here is the pool
Oh,
enabled.
interesting. Yep. Token
So
right over here.
yeah, what was the last trading price? I kind of can get a sense of what's going on with this property and kind of like at a glance, okay. And as you know, now you experience, but for beginner will be less important. But pool being there is sort of useful if you need to get out or you need to take profits, and having that a place to do that. Just stuff
Hmm.
stuff like that, being in one place is useful to
What is this?
me.
What is this trading volume? How are you calculating this one?
This one is provided by Lofty API, and I believe
It
it's
is
the
interesting.
last, yeah, the last 4 weeks, I believe. So
Okay.
$13,000 worth of, yeah.
Oh, the last 4 weeks of trading. Okay, that's really interesting. That's not something that one of the things. So I was using another tool that somebody had posted in the Lofty Discord not too long ago, and it made me realize that Lofty has a lot of data points that you can like query, but that don't show up on their site anywhere that I can find.
Correct.
And so, and so
Which
you
is
mentioned like,
could be a sign that it might be coming. Like they are,
right.
it wouldn't be too hard for them to put a lot of this stuff.
And it seems like maybe this is one of those, or it's somewhere on the site that I just haven't noticed it. Right?
Oh yeah,
Which,
the
because,
trading volume is there. If you look at
is it
the
really?
order,
Okay.
yeah, if you look at the
It's
order
in the
book,
order book? Okay.
yeah, scroll down on this page. There is a view on Lofty link. Click on that link.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Now take a look at the order book. When you click on the view order book, you see the
Oh,
straight
trade volume
volume.
right there. Okay. Yep.
Yep.
I very rarely look at this. I'll typically open this, and I guess it's there too, but I don't. The only thing I'm ever looking for is,
Yeah, yeah,
what's listed
yeah.
for sale here. So I've never even
Yeah.
noticed that one. So that's interesting. Um,
Yeah, so now you know. Now you know
yeah, okay,
you can take
interesting.
a
Right
look.
there.
Yeah.
Uh, but like my brain works way more like this, right, than in like these bubbles, and that might also be part of why I'm just, when like this is to me whenever I see like especially like big bubbles and stuff like I think my brain shuts it off because it feels like
Sure.
they're trying to sell something right like it looks more like advertisements for the property where like when you just have lists of data this is the way my brain works so I really like this and it's funny because like I can look at it and I see something that I never even noticed even though I've definitely opened this hundreds of times and just
Hundreds of times. Yeah, you're
yeah
in
yeah
there all the time.
I do always look at this market cap, right? But I never even look at this number. I always just am looking for the tokens, right? So
Yeah,
that's interesting.
that is funny. And then uh let's see, is there anything else? I'm still working on this calculator tab, where basically I try to this fee needs to be fixed because we know the fees are really high.
Right,
And actually, I am able to calculate the exact fee you will pay on this. So, for example, like I can use stuff like, here's what the token is going for, this
right,
$57 with an accurate fee calculation. And then I want to invest, let's say, $1,000. Okay.
right.
So now you should be able to just click on that button to calculate. And if you scroll down,
Oh, interesting. Okay.
so it's essentially, it gives me an idea of, okay, if I bought $1,000, what would that look like? I would be able to buy 16 tokens. Just
Hmm.
to cover fees, I would have to hold this for 3 months. 3 months of worth of yield would cover my buy fees, not even the sell fees. And
That's a
then,
really interesting metric right there. How long to cover your buy fees. Um, yeah, and so when you said you're working on this, are you going to make it so that we can pick whether it's a market or limit order because it changes the fees we're using?
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. And like more accurate reflection right now, I think I have like a fixed dollar amount, but
right.
it's a percentage of the price. And and I think this calculator might have made it a little bit overcomplicated because I have this token growth taken into account. Essentially, what I want to simulate is like your yield will be dropping as the person is paying off the loan. So
Right.
don't think, and also there is variability in yield itself. So right now I'm
Yep.
like, hey, cash flow is 50,000, but maybe come up with some sort of like last 12-month average cash flow just to get more realistic picture.
Right.
Um,
Well, and that the what you mentioned as far as the dilution from the co-owner paying off debt, it is one of the hardest things to model out because you can figure out okay if we're just making our monthly payment where what's that's amortizing, but at any given time, and some of the co-owners do this, they'll just pay down a
oh,
chunk of debt,
boom.
and
Yeah,
all of a sudden you're diluted. And so, I think it's definitely something I think a lot about, but it's not something I am. I don't know. I was working on a really complicated Excel model on it, and I just decided that like it's it's too difficult to know what's actually going to happen to like really
sure.
care too much about it, other than just understanding that it is having it's putting downward pressure on my yield um, over time, right? So,
Yeah, and then one other thing, I think the way I think about it is I can take a look at the history of a property and how that, if let's say PM, property manager, co-owner, is very explicit in chats, like, here's my goal with this loan. I only going to be
hmm
paying off what is required by my mortgage statement. and I'm not going to do any other thing. Obviously, it's not a 100% promise. Things can
Right.
change,
Right.
but you kind of like you can get like a happy path, most likely outcome,
Oh, right.
you
Right.
know, and then you can see how that tokenomics will change over time.
And one of the things I wanted to, I can tell sort of by the way you think about this that, we talked a little bit about this offline where I have a couple different strategies of looking at properties on Lofty. I'm doing a lot of trading. I'm buying a lot of the ones that aren't yielding anything and they're just a big discount to the real world price. Um, I have some of the longer hold, buying for yield, but my impression from what you've said so far is that you're primarily looking for long-term holds and the yields, and I think to a certain extent we're seeing that the way the data that you're most interested in, right, is by looking at, okay, how long do I have
Expense
to hold this to
ratios,
cover the
how long I
fees,
have
and
to.
what is now. I think for both of us, the most important thing is to really understand how that real estate is performing, right? I think that
Yep.
that's and that is what you really have to sort of start trying to pull out some of the info that is not so easy to find. Um, the thing that just triggered this mentioning this discussion though is I noticed you have this liquidation analysis, and so that's something I'm spending a lot of time. I'm always looking at like what when I go to is this for if I'm selling the tokens or if it's getting sold in real life?
Selling the tokens.
Okay, cool. Can we take a look at that?
Yeah,
What?
click on it. The only thing that will change is basically I'm giving you an option. Okay, what do you think? Like roughly, like based on your knowledge, like what can
Uh-huh.
I be selling this tokens for? And then how much, again, the fees I need to fix, but let's say it's right now a fixed amount. But let's
Right.
say I will sell for 48, so I will lose uh based on just like token. Yeah. And now my holding period changes here. So 15 months,
Ah,
my
yep.
returns, my returns change, like annual return changes, like everything else changes. So I kind of get a better picture of if I am gonna drop 5K on this and I'm okay holding for 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then let's say PM is great, I trust it, has shown good history, property is good. Obviously, there's all kinds of risks, natural disasters, on and on and on.
Right.
But certain path that let's say things go on as they have gone and they add some cushion to, let's say, yes, I'm not going to get $50 for this. I'm going to get $40. What does that look like to me? Is this yield worth it? If let's
Mm-hmm.
say, yield can be trusted to stay consistent or at least within a certain range.
Right.
So
No, no,
that's the only
I
thing.
love this. This is something that is completely lacking on the Lofty user interface at the moment, right? Like I'm always using an Excel sheet to look at my buy and sell and sticking the fees in and trying to figure out, okay, what do I need to buy? If I expect to sell it at X, what do I need to buy it for today? Or if I
Yep.
bought it for this, where does it need to go before I'm
Yep.
actually profiting? So I love that you included this. Obviously I get, you're still working on how those fees work. But it's something that, I mean, that's, it's a big step in the right direction as far as for someone trying to actually use this site to, um, to be able to make really informed investment
Informed.
decisions,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a goal. That's a goal. So one other thing that I really like, I'm not sure how much time we have, but one
Well,
other thing
as much as you want, honestly. I mean, we can make this super long, or it's really up to you. And I'm interested in this, and I want to know how to use every part of it that you want to tell me about. So go right ahead.
so let's say, so then there is this property research area that is important and diving into
Hmm.
numbers. Another thing is once I own properties, right? There are things changing with them all the time. And
Yep.
Lofty does a good job, like in, sending the email updates. Then something happens, but they are also very busy. There's a lot of properties, and sometimes things change on them before they send an email update.
Right.
Um, and there's just like a lot of things going on. So actually, number one reason why I built this was this staying up to date on the property updates. So you see
Hmm.
this latest updates tab, or you can
Yep.
go back to dashboard. Actually, let's start at dashboard. Dashboard is a little bit more fun.
Okay.
So when you start here, then I begin my day sort of like I don't want to spend a lot of time on lot. Like I have other things I want to do. I
Right.
have, I want to work on other investments. I don't want to like just browse Lofty all day, every
Yep.
day.
Yep. I realize
So
not
I
everybody is me. Not everybody's going to spend hours in there every day.
yeah. Yeah, I would like to do something else. So a lot of times I'll be like, okay, what's going on in the Lofty world today? Oh, like 3 properties with updates. Let's click on that. That three, yeah. So you're gonna get to this property updates and let's click on it again on this Wednesday. So today, 3 properties. Okay. So this Wild Olive, again, it depends how experienced you are with the platform and how much you know. You might not know nothing about this property and it means nothing to you.
Right.
But let's say I'm sure you know a little bit about this
I
property.
follow this one for sure. This is
And I know a few things about this property and actually have posted some information from my website about this property on Discord. So I would be like, I think I even have marked this as like interested on my site. So I'm kind of keeping a close eye on this one, what's going on. But now to
hmm
get like, oh, there's a new property management agreement. I would definitely would be interested to take a look at it.
right.
And you can see how like my system says this previous property management agreement was removed. There's a new one has been added. Here's the
Right.
links for both of them. And then there's a document sync also picked it up. So I would take a look at that. Now scroll down a little bit. There is also this Leclerc. Again, for people that are not familiar, they don't know what's going on with it. We know they're trying to kind of sell this, finish the sale, and I
Right.
can kind of keep track of how the token sales are going on this one. And then there is another like oh, this new lease agreement has been added. Oh, there might be a new lease. So I might take a
Right.
look at this. I might click on this property like here. Yeah, like we see this link to go to a new tab. Yeah, I might go in there and like kind of like take a look what's there's a new lease agreement signed, just sort of like I use it
Right.
that update stream to branch off this. I might not own this,
Yep.
but I might look at it and be like, hi, you know what, I really look at this discount. There's 32% discount going on. uh yeah, this green. Now
Right.
the pool is not enabled. I would be like, do I want to start messing with this? There's operating reserve replenishment going on. Okay, there might be some value here. You were saying, OR is being replenished. People just
Right.
only look at yield. Yield so far is very low, might not attract a lot of people. But like, let's say they got a new renter. If I look at the charts, I see a good history, I see a good description, I might start putting in limit orders to start buying things like
Right.
that.
And I want to just share another example of where this will be really helpful having those updates. Because I am that guy that just sits in Lofty all day long and like looks at stuff some days. And so one of the things I did just start doing is looking into the documents tab on properties that I just wasn't, didn't own any of, but just to see what was recent. And one of the better deals that I've done so far is one where I hadn't owned the property at all, but I looked in the documents and I saw they had a purchase contract for the property. Somebody was buying that property in the real world. uh, there was no update yet that it was under contract, but I could see what it was selling for. I did some basic math and figured out, what that was going to net for the tokens. And I went and bought, not a ton of tokens because it's sometimes tough to buy a lot of tokens at a
Yep.
time. But I was able to buy tokens for a property that was already under contract to sell in the real world. That there was no email update or update on the page yet, but there was a document in there that let me know that that had happened.
Yeah.
And that sort of thing, being able to get a trigger like, okay, this is every property that something new showed up, and then maybe I should look and see. Yeah, that's one of the features that you have that I think just creates a lot of opportunity, and will save me time by not just looking in the
R-
individual properties each time. So
Right, right, right. And again, 150 properties. One of them has gotten a new tenant. How would you know that besides like
right,
going through and running into, or like Discord is very helpful, right? Some people will be like, oh, we got a new tenant. on a
And
Discord, we got a new tenant, and you're like, "Ooh, let me take a look." Boom, boom, boom. But
right,
again,
exactly.
for a person like me who's I don't want to live in Discord. I don't want to be
Yep.
there a long time. I have some other things to do. I have kids to take care of. And on and on and on. And yeah, so yeah.
So
So
what
let's go back to the update stream. So what
Yeah, let me ask you one other thing first though. You mentioned a couple times there's 154 properties. They actually have like 167. So I'm wondering if you're pulling
I
those
know where you're
ones
going with
that are
this.
not on their front page at all.
I know where you're going with this. So
Yeah.
yes. And yeah, I'm not sure like how Lofty wants people looking at API to handle these things.
Yeah.
And right now I don't, I do hide them from this,
Yep.
but I kind of like I take my time hiding them, and then similar to them,
Hmm.
like if you have a link to a property in Lofty and even though it's hidden, you can actually go to it and you can start doing things. It's just not
Right.
listed. So I also take the same approach. And I have considered uh, surfacing in this update stream, like there would be an update saying this property has been taken off from listing,
Hmm.
and here's the link, and then you as a person you could be like, oh, okay, let me save it somewhere in my notes, because I want to keep track of what's going on with this.
Right.
Or I
And
was thinking like still keeping it until it's completely out of Lofty's world where like, they sold the property, everybody moved on, pools taken off, and then I would do it. But yeah, I keep it behind the scenes. I don't
right.
surface it yet. And the only thing I'm thinking like make it more clear right now, like when the property disappears, it just disappears. We don't even know it existed. Make
Right.
it make it a little bit more explicit in like this stream that like, hey, there has been property delisted.
And for people watching that might not know why they do this, the number one reason that they're taking a property off of their front page is that it's being listed for sale in the real world. And so their thought is, well, now we're trying to sell it. We don't want people to come onto the platform and buy into that property, not realizing it's going to be sold.
Yeah,
The reason I ask about it is a lot of the best deals that I've done have been on properties that are not listed on there because I want to buy into one that maybe is going to sell quickly. If those tokens are at a discount, and I do find because they've taken it off of their page, there's a lot less buy side pressure, but you still have all these people that want to sell. And so
yeah,
I've got 4 or 5 properties that have been delisted on Lofty that are sitting on the market in the real world but not selling that I think that I keep buying tokens on every time somebody puts them up cheaply because it just creates an opportunity. Um, so I don't know. One of the things that that I think and I get trying to respect what they're doing as far as not promoting it, but one of the things that I thought would be interesting is to have a spot where I can just see what those properties are because sometimes they do
love it.
create really interesting opportunities for us because they are. I mean, they're almost always, I'm sure they have some other reasons they've done it. They've done some where they've like changed out tokens and so, so
Yeah,
you have to be careful interacting with those properties. And so I think it makes sense
100.
that they don't want them like front and center, but at the same time, I think there's also opportunities to be had there. It's one of the things I've asked them to do before. I'm like, hey, can you just give me a list of your non-listed properties? And they're like, well, no, we we don't want them listed, right? So. Um,
Yeah, yeah, and actually, yeah, and I just put a note for myself, the listed property view somewhere. I think I
yeah,
think I can I think I can make it happen, and I do find similar use out of it, like what you just said. Again, my goal is kind of like stay within what Lofty is okay with, and also provide value.
right,
Honestly, a lot of this value is this, they say don't do this, don't build tools just for yourself,
right,
but I mean, I have to have some sort of way that gives me a fast way to take advantage of opportunities and or like, invest in Lofty, but invest in Lofty in educated way. And this is my way to make those educated decisions, and then,
right.
uh,
And
buying
that's sort
like
of,
profit.
I'm glad you bring that up because it was one of the things I'm curious about. Are you planning on eventually selling this as a tool, or are you thinking, you mentioned, it's something that you built for yourself, but there's a ton of work to do just for your own investing. I mean, are you expecting in the future this might be a subscription model or a tool someone buys, or are you hoping to sell it as features to Lofty?
I haven't thought too much about the selling these features to Lofty bit. Kind of
Yeah,
has crossed my mind. I was like, hey, maybe Lofty would be interested in some sort of like, but no, definitely not my goal.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Number one is it started as to help me to make better decisions.
Right,
Even though this looks like a ton of work, there's a little of like a hobby itch that I'm scratching. I'm a software engineer with 20
right,
plus years of experience, and I love launching products. Now, I do want to see, can I make this helpful to other people and do make, if I can make money from it, why not? And
right. Of course.
so I'm kind of mulling ideas around like, let's say charging a some sort of like subscription fee that's for a
Mhm.
year or for a month, and but come with like premium features. And some of the premium features I need to kind of gauge from users what would be like this premium feature that is very hard to get.
Right,
Like no, the like the update stream is very helpful, very profit making for users. This could make
right,
you
right,
money, so you shouldn't be reluctant to, I don't know, spend like $40 per year
right.
on this thing. Email notifications. So let's say you don't even want to come to the website. You just want
Hmm.
to get pinged, then just give me like a summary and then I'll come up, and do something that I want. So that's, yes, I am exploring the subscription model. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, and again, it would be that scratching the itch because in
Yeah.
my day job, I am launching products. I am I am building software that I sell.
Right.
So yeah, yeah, that's a goal for sure, for sure.
Great. No, and I mean, honestly, I can see the, especially, I mean, what you're doing, I think more than anything is saving somebody a lot of time on the platform, or at least somebody like me, you're saving a lot of time for me on the platform by using a tool like this. I think for maybe a more typical user, because I realize I'm not normal, I think it's actually they'll see those opportunities that they just wouldn't see otherwise because they're not going to take that time to dig
Yeah,
into things. So yeah, I mean, I think that's makes perfect sense, and yeah, if it's something that's affordable relative to how much you're going to make on there.
totally,
Yeah,
totally.
I always am just curious because it is, I saw you mentioned this tool to me a while back. I saw you were working on it, and in my mind, like this is a ton of work, but I have no sense of like what it takes to build something like this.
No, it
So
is. It is. Don't get me wrong. It is a lot of work. It's just a amount of coding here. There's some Dropbox syncing,
yeah,
Lofty syncing going on. Like, definitely, this is not like, hey, sit down and bam, bam,
right,
to draw on. But it does help that I have a lot of years of experience. It does help, now coding is much easier with AI help, LLMs. There's a lot of code generation that speeds up the process significantly. I used to be absolutely horrible with like user interface and front ends, and right now I can stand up websites that are digestible by normal people
right,
and not spend like insane amount of hours.
yeah,
But again, it helps that there's a little itch, that it helps that it's in my professional domain.
right,
Um,
right.
so, and it helps me make better investment decisions. So,
Yeah, I can certainly see how it would. Now,
mhm.
anything else that we should know how to use on here?
um, if you are logged in right now, I see you're not logged in this
Let
particular.
me log in because I did register, so I should be able to log in real quick.
Let's see this guy load. Here we go. So one of the things once you're logged in,
Uh-huh.
there is, if you go to, let's say, property, let's go back to properties listing.
Okay.
Let's mouse over, let's say, this Luden property that we just discussed. You see this mark as
Oh,
own thing?
yep.
That's
Sorry.
fine.
I see.
You can mark it
Oh,
as
right here.
own.
Yep.
Yep.
Oh,
Okay, now
interesting.
once you
Okay.
click, go back to dashboard. once you have that, like your list of properties marked as owned, they will show up here. So you kind of like when you land there, you'll be able to get a quick glance of what's going on in your world. And
Got it. Okay.
then if you click on latest updates,
Uh, this one.
yeah. You can always you see this toggle here, owned interested properties only
Oh,
on
yes.
that.
Yep.
So now, only the stuff. So like this Luton property had an update on January 26th, January 15th, January 7th. So kind of like, let's say you're not interested in the whole noise of the world.
Right.
You just kind of like want to know what's happening in your world. So that helps having an account. And then one other thing is what I wanted to quickly show is the reports tab. I think I will change that, but there is a little bit of meat for people to chew on in
Okay.
this reports tab. If you go in there, um, there is some interesting ways. I have found some properties. If you click the report, there is like by largest discounts or by lowest available price or maybe premium. Let's see what's going by the premium, like largest discount page, for example. You can get like a quick look of, okay, what properties are selling, with like really low prices. Maybe you can see
Hmm.
something like, going through OR replenishment that might tickle your fancy.
Right.
There's like, for example, for me personally, I would see some like A-rated neighborhood properties going under real discount. What's going on with them? So kind of
Oh,
like,
interesting. Yep.
yeah, so I would take a look, click on that view of that property and kind of do the same thing what we went through with properties. Like, let's dig in, let's see the cost
Right.
breakdown, what's going on. So for example, here, it's trading at 36% discount. The annual expenses are really low. What's happening? And I would start digging. I would look for charts like, okay, maybe wasn't yielding, maybe it's still catching up. And again, I know what's going on in this property. I know why
Right.
it's trading so low, because I've been on Lofty for a while.
Yep.
But if I wasn't, I would take a look at the updates and I would see all kinds of conversations about Bitcoin and Algorand and OR being used for stuff. And then I'll be like, oh, that's why you're trading so discounted.
Right. No, this is a crazy one. So I recently
Yeah.
started buying into this one when it dipped below $30. When you look at this most discounted, like I own half the tokens on this list,
Here we
right? So
go.
this
Here we
this
go.
is a good this is a
This is Joe's view.
yeah, this is a good list. I'm always going in and like just sorting, I'm just always in there sorting by cheapest and then, clicking in and trying to find stuff out. So being able to actually have this list and then see some I love that you added the neighborhood rating in this because a lot of times the reason that some of them are discounted is because it's not in a great location and that
Yeah.
property is never going to do well, right?
Yep.
Although, this is one, it's not in a great location, but it is actually, doing okay. So I think that, some of that data you really have to take with a grain of salt, but it's a great
Absolutely.
like starting point, quick look at things.
Right there.
Um, yeah, no, I like this a lot. I like, so what else do we have here? Your current yields, cap rates, grade B or higher with cap. Yeah, no, I like what you're doing here. Um,
I
Trading
personally,
volume. Oh, go
yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, click on that trading volume. So like this Lubbock property, that 32 unit,
Yep.
you can see how it's doing really well. And if you ask me, it's like makes sense why. I think it's like a unique property for Lofty.
Right.
But that can give you an idea like, hey, like we know from investing, from trading, sometimes things are expensive for good reason.
Right.
Sometimes things have lots of volume for good reason. You have to make your own decisions. Do you agree with that? And for me, this, for example, could be like, for example, here the second property, or this third property, I might disagree on like this high volume. It's most recent property. Maybe that's why,
Right. Well,
and
that all
I
three of
will,
these are pretty recent, right? Which is going
yeah,
to sway the volume quite a bit.
100%. Yep. Yep. But, it's a different way to slice the data and take a look at it. And I think
Hmm.
You know that tool you mentioned that somebody else wrote, listed this Lofty query. I
Yep.
really like what they did with like flexibility of how you can query and change stuff. I
Right.
honestly think I'm gonna turn this page, this reports page, into that, and you can just save your queries, so you don't have to like
Oh, interesting. Okay.
management. So you can make your own reports. They
Yep.
will run, and you can come back to them, and you will determine the criteria. Hey, like you like discounted, you do
Right.
want distressed for short period of time to give you as like a starting point. So
Yeah. Now, if you do that, I think it would be still cool for you to save some of the ones, like some
yeah,
suggested ones,
yep,
because
yep, yep.
um, especially
Clean
because
slate.
there's ones that maybe I didn't think about, right? Like you're
Yeah.
thinking about data in a different way than I am. You're looking at stuff differently. So no, I mean, even though I've used that other tool now a decent amount, just looking at different things, but it is uh, e- trading volume is not one thing I thought about looking at, like, and so it is helpful to have those different ideas of where to get started too. So,
Yeah, and I think my future plans, like to tie this up, my future plans is to see, kind of experiment what sort of like notifications kind of alerts people would find useful, and if they do want alerts, we all busy, maybe alerts are not the best thing to go with, especially like real estate if you are a long-term thinker.
hmm
But some sort of like customized reports, alerts. Oh, one big one that I think this is the next one I'm gonna start working on is um, a property manager co-owner profile, so
Yes.
that
Yep.
you can go and say, it's like, hey, give me these co-owners. So I want nothing to do with, let's say, Y home properties. So it's
Just as
very
an
clear.
example, just
Just an example.
right,
Here is it's very upfront and clear. But let's
right.
say I really like Earl's properties. Let me see what Earl has. Or like Valak, that Florida properties. Let me see what
hmm
he has. Or that Lubbock, let me see what else he has. So kind of
Right.
like making that front and center.
Yep. No, I love that idea because it is real estate is not just a property business, it's a people business too. And
Yeah.
so who's running that for you? Yeah, it makes a huge difference. I think
And
that,
then to see what history they have of a platform. So, for example, sure, the person might be really awesome, but 6 months, all of his properties are, let's say, 2 months on the platform. Can you really trust that?
right,
You need to
right.
build it out. So,
Yeah, no, that's a great feature. I'd be pretty interested to see that. Um, I guess the only other, so one, I want to make sure everybody realizes the site we're on is loftyassist.com. So obviously, if they want to come on that's the place to look. If someone wants to reach out to you, are you open to communication in any way? Is there some way people could reach you if they had feedback on it?
yeah, for sure. I'm always looking for feedback, always looking for people interested in this and sort of like throw their ideas at me. If I find them useful, I definitely will implement them. If people want to collaborate on stuff, absolutely. The best way, to reach me, I think I have an email in here in the Lofty Assist about
Oh, you do?
page.
Okay. Let's
And
take a look.
then scroll down about Lofty. Maybe I can make it more.
Ah, you got a
Yeah,
contact
contact.
here.
Yeah, support@loftassist.com. Um, so yeah,
Open it. It's got my stupid Outlook thing, which
yeah,
let's close that. You can
yeah.
see all my recent emails are from Lofty when I open that up.
Like I could, I was thinking about putting that contact form, but I figured people, if they really want to get in touch with, we can find it. And also, I joined your Discord
Oh,
room
awesome.
that you have. So
And
if
and if you don't
people,
know what that is, everybody, there will be a link in the description to that Discord. It is just a generic fractional real estate investing, discussion forum. So we're not, so we can the main reason is because sometimes I want to be critical of one of the platforms and I don't want to do it in their own Discord. So
yeah, no, I think that's a good place to chat. And yeah, and loftassist.com, go in there, and there's an email, support@loftassist.com. You can reach me, and I'll be there.
awesome. I really appreciate you coming on. You teaching me how to use this. I think anybody who watches any of my videos knows I'm just not tech savvy. So having you show me how to use all this. I'm definitely going to be using it a lot more than I was before.
Oh,
And
good.
anytime you want to come on and give us a little update on new features or something different we should know about it, I'm really happy to have you on here because I think this will be extremely useful. And it's uh-oh. Are you still there?
Yep,
I just
yep.
I just closed everything. I might have to edit a minute of that out because I think I just showed my uh maybe not. We'll see. We'll see if I have to cut that. But sorry about that. As I'm telling you, I'm not tech savvy. I'm having a problem with
I that's
by
technology.
swiping all my windows away. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on. And unless there's anything else you have to say, we'll wrap it up.
No, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. Always happy to talk lofty real estate, things like that. So, and thanks for all your videos. So it's
Oh,
interesting to
thank you. Well,
watch.
thank you for watching. I'm glad we found the person who's doing that. So.
Wait. And again, you should consider publishing your Twitter feed more with your sandwiches that you make. So there's definitely entertainment
I'll
value there.
I'll start sharing some of my sandwiches on the channel for sure. You're right. All right. I'll have a good one.
You too.